Well, I guess just first off, Daniel Jones, how does he sort of compare, contrast to these other guys you've faced under center?
Yeah, he's a good quarterback. I know. It seems like every single week we're facing good ones. He's a good decision maker, and you look at him, he's got a lot of career starts. I mean, you look at film, that guy's been out there for a long time. So, he's got a strong arm. He makes good throws in the pockets, good decisions. Like every week, we still got to make sure we do our job, make our proper checks, and fit with the receivers the right way and play with good eyes and good discipline from the back end. But every single week we've been facing some good, solid quarterbacks.
He's one of those guys who always seems to be on those, early draft boards and stuff like that. I mean, even more so than like Milton McSorley.
Right,
is that just because of the size, you think, or is there something else that sort of makes him a pro-style guy?
You can see that, him compared to the other ones, which, again, McSorley, Milton, those guys could run. They could still make the throws in the pocket. But now you look at Jones, he's a big kid. You even see when he runs that ball and guys try to take him down, he'll be finishing forward. He's a big guy in that pocket. He can sit in the pocket, see his targets over the offensive line. He's got a very strong arm back there too. So it might be a little bit of it as you look at the height and the size of him as he throws the ball back there.
Yeah, going back to that Notre Dame game, Stalker had an interception, Briggs had a sack. How are you pleased with your guys' performance in that game?
Yeah, I thought the guys, I felt like they really went out there, and I felt like we played hard. I think we really battled for four quarters. I felt like the guys came up with some good plays in critical situations. Like you say, Briggs' sack, then even Jazzy's interception as they're driving. That was a big interception to stop those guys as they were going in. So I felt like they came up with some pretty good plays in key situations. So very pleased with them last week. And more than anything, too, I felt like they executed with what we wanted. I felt like we put a lot on our boundary safeties plate last week. And you look at Dennis Briggs as well as Phil Campbell, I felt like they really executed everything that we put on their plate last week. So I was pleased with them. Now at the end of the day, we got to finish with the win. We can be pleased with them, but we got to come out victorious at the end of the day to be happy with that.
I know you guys always talk about competition at the positions, but at this point now, are you also seeing getting into a pretty good rotation? Guys are comfortable with the snap load that they're getting in games, and then
I think as you look at it too, though, those safeties, there's a fair amount of reps being split up. Mm-hmm. As you look at last week's game against Notre Dame, I think Dennis with 45 reps and Phil Campbell with 29. Then you got Jazzy playing a lot to the field. So those guys are still, you got to make sure you're still managing their bodies and their legs the proper way for the long haul. There's still a lot of football to be played. But those guys are still battling competition. It's got to be competition every single day. Nobody can get comfortable or complacent in their position just thinking that they're a starter, because there's still enough talent for if you don't want to hustle to the ball or burst to the ball in practice, it's still next man ready to take your spot.
With his combination of experience and everywhere he's played, is Jazzy maybe that most versatile safety you guys have got back there in terms of playing both spots?
Yeah, if you see Jazzy, in our Delta package, we'll throw him to the boundary. Then in our base package, we'll have him in the field. And even when you saw against Syracuse, we had him and Ham out there at the same time. One to the boundary, one to the field, and Jazzy was the swing guy between that. So he's been pretty versatile for us this year. Bryson Gardner's the one not as much out there, but he's another guy that has swung, and if we needed him to the field or boundary or what may be, he's been able to swing as well.
What was the biggest point of emphasis for your group in the off week?
Big thing is get your bodies back, physically and mentally, okay? But now as you regain your bodies back, to make sure you're still staying on top of it football-wise too. You're away, and they're taking care of their academics, they're taking care of their resting, they're off their feet, taking care of their bodies in the training room, getting extra treatment. But at the same time, that was extra time to continue to watch film. So now it was extra time to truly study your opponents and study their splits, study their steps and their routes, how they're breaking those things off, their eyes where they're at, the tight end, what may be it. So it was a really good chance for those guys to have some extra time to study who we're playing as well this week.
Have you seen a notable improvement in open field tackling from your guys? From, I know there was a lot of missed tackles like North Carolina, UCF, the last few games.
Yeah, we saw it was North Carolina, the biggest one that you saw. We overran. There was a lot of perimeter plays that game where we overran a few. And at the end of the day, that's on coaching. So that's on myself, and we made a big emphasis of making sure we were doing perimeter fits that next week, and not just, okay, you do it that week, then you lose sight of it, and oh, you covered it for 1 week, but making sure we're continuing to do that, and not just staying focused on, you know, tight, compact tackling drills, making sure we're doing things in space and actual things that they will be doing. So that's been continued to be a big point of emphasis. So yeah, I feel like we've seen improvement each week with that, of those guys and how they're keeping leverage on the football.
Okay. Coach,
Thanks,
thank you
Corey.
very much.
Yeah, thank you.